Let's talk about why you don't finish your videos and how you can fix it. You see, creating videos starts long before you press record, and today I'll teach you how to edit before you start shooting to create better cinematic work. Because let's be honest, making videos is pretty difficult, and for years I would get stuck in the process. What typically happened, I went out with no plan, filled dozens of hard drives, and when it came to editing, I didn't know where to start. I procrastinated, I lost my passion halfway into a video, and I didn't finish half of my projects. And that is actually a pretty common thing for a lot of people who make videos. But I changed things up massively, and today I want to show you how I make it happen. The whole process has 8 different steps, and one of them includes editing in your camera, and it gets about 80% of the job done before I even go out and shoot. Which sounds weird, but it will all make sense. So step number 1, it starts with an idea. Now think about it. Hollywood directors are not just winging it when they make a movie. They got a very specific idea, and I personally like to sketch down mine on a piece of paper, and I know it's going to be different from the final result, but it lies a solid foundation. And a really cool way to visualize your video is to outline it in form of a circle. So what I recommend to do is work in a couple of common storytelling techniques. So for example, the character goes on a journey in the beginning, then experiences some sort of transformation, and in the end has some kind of epiphany. Now obviously it depends on your specific video, but you get the idea. For this particular example that we're gonna talk about, I knew I wanted to go to Poland and create a story about a forest there. Now, quick disclaimer, throughout this video, I'll show you a bunch of online tools that I use in this workflow. Some of them are completely free, others cost a couple of dollars. I personally don't have a connection with most of the companies that I'll mention, but one that I do know very well is Artlist. I've been using their platform for several years now, and they were kind enough to sponsor this video and help keep the lights on here on the channel. But the specific workflow is not exclusive to any website or software or whatever. It's a mindset that works equally well with any tool, and you'll understand intuitively, okay? Step number 2. Once you have conceptualized your thoughts, you gotta start with a bit of research. And now most of you will think, okay, we live in the age of AI, so let's just outsource our brains and let ChatGPT do all the work. But you've got to be really careful with that, because it will not create the type of quality that you're looking for. Gotta think of AI as a research assistant that can help you with some tasks, but you still have to do the heavy lifting yourself. Now, what I like to do instead of Google search, I use a tool which is called Perplexity AI, and it is like an academic research tool. And it will give you a ton of results and a lot of links, which is a great starting point for any video. So in this case, I simply prompted, hey, I'm traveling to Poland, to Białowieża forest, and for the video I want you to research themes that are interesting and can be used for storytelling. And after a couple of minutes it came up with interesting themes about this place, and I narrowed it down to 3. So I took all of this information and typed up some kind of prototype script. Which brings us to step number 3, the narrative assembly. Timing is such a big part that makes your entire video work, so I want to build a narrative assembly in form of an audio prototype first. The way it works, I go to a platform like Artlist, just copy and paste my voiceover script, pick one of the voices, and then it generates sort of prototype audio file for me that sounds like this.
In the heart of Europe lies something that shouldn't exist. A forest that has never been cut down or managed by human hands. And while 99% of Europe's original forests have vanished, this one survived wars, empires, and centuries of development.
Now, if you don't want to narrate your video yourself, you could even use this for the final video, but I personally just like to use it as a mock-up voiceover to kind of sketch out my timeline basically, okay? So all I have to do is drag the chapters into my editing software, and I know exactly how long the final video is going to be approximately, which is very, very useful. Next is time to make a scratch edit. Got the timing set, and now we can research music, and I know what the vibe of the video is going to be. Again, music can be found on various places all over the internet. Even YouTube has a library, but for convenience I like to use a music licensing platform like Artlist, tend to filter for cinematic music, documentary, just download a ton of different tracks, and then I throw all of them into my timeline so I can see what fits and what doesn't, and I tend just to delete the stuff that doesn't fit, okay? Which brings us to step number 5. We got the timing and the audio sketched out, so now it is time to build a visualization, and there are multiple ways to do that. Now, making a mood board is a pretty good starting point, and I tend to collate screenshots from movies and videos, and one of the resources that I like to use is a website called frameset.app, which gives you access to a lot of different scenes from movies, commercials and so on. Again, they're not affiliated or anything. In fact, I have no idea who they are, but I just like to use their platform during the brainstorming session. So what I did in this specific case, I just typed in cinematic forest and I took screenshots, saved all of them in a folder to kind of sketch things out. Now, if you wanted, you could even throw these screenshots in your editing software. It is a little messy, but it does the job and will give you like a general direction. But a much better way to do that is draw a storyboard, and we're going to use AI to kind of shortcut our work. There are a couple of resources all over the internet. Even Photoshop now offers generative AI, but once again, for convenience sake, I tend to use Artlist because they also got an image and video generation tool that allows you to do all kinds of things, and they got a bunch of image styles, and one is literally called storyboard. So you can think of it as a preset. And what I did, I just described the scene I'm after, and I repeated that a couple of times, save the images, and I can assemble the timeline this way. Now, depending on how much effort you want to put in this stage, you could even print it out and bring it to your shoot or give to your client or whatever. And as you can see in my case, some of those storyboard elements ended up looking very similar to the final video actually. Cool. Step number 6. Now that you have done with all of the pre-production work, you can actually go to the fun part and go out, shoot your video. So what usually happens during this step, you went to the location, you worked for your storyboard, and you shot a bunch of images, and now it is time to transfer the stuff to your computer. But stop, we're gonna do something different this time and do something that feels a little bit counterintuitive. We're gonna pre-select our videos and cut them a little bit inside our camera. Now, the main benefit is that you can do it on the road, on your shooting location, and you can basically process parts of the video already before you transfer anything to your computer, which is super powerful. So usually after this stage, I end up sitting a couple of hours in front of my computer and I would assemble the timeline and all of the stuff that I shot. But what I can guarantee is that I run into quite a few problems at this stage, and I need to find something to kind of iron things out. So what usually happens is I have a couple of gaps and I need to generate a couple of extra seconds of video to fill those. And what I like to do is use a tool in Premiere Pro, which is brand new, which is called Generative Extend. And it looks like this little icon right here. And what it can do, it can extend 2 seconds of video or 10 seconds of audio, which is super powerful. However, sometimes extending only 2 seconds won't cut it because you're missing either an entire clip or a sequence, and there are 2 ways to handle that. Number 1, you can grab a stock clip. Once again, there are many places all over the internet where you can find stock clips. I personally like to use Artlist, but another way that I want to discuss is using an AI tool to create a clip completely from scratch. So for instance, in my video, I wanted to have some kind of wildlife camera shot as a super intriguing element. Now obviously I didn't have access to this type of wildlife camera, or couldn't ask a park ranger or anything, so I simply decided to use an AI generation tool. And as I said, there are many online, but it is often a little bit complicated as you need to sign up for beta access or developer access. And also those AI tools, they tend to change very quickly. And that is why I personally tend to default back to my Artlist Max subscription, because they also offer access to different tools and the interface is very intuitive to understand. So what I like to do is I simply prompt what kind of image I want to generate, and on the bottom left corner I can select Sora 2 or whatever model I prefer. In my case, I simply said, please create a nighttime wildlife camera shot of a European bison, and it required only 2 attempts until it gave me exactly those couple of seconds of video that I needed, that looked very intriguing and mysterious, and I added that to the intro of my video. As I said, this gets about 80% of the job done before I pick up my camera, and it really changed how I approach my videos. But as you could tell from the way I structure this video, I really like to use Artlist. In case this made you curious and you are considering a plan with them, I got good news. I can give you 2 months for free on their annual plans. So let's break down what options they have. Number one, if you just want their music, it starts at $9.99 for the creator plan, which is pretty decent value. The second option is their AI suite, which gives you access to those AI image generation tools. And lastly, there's the premium option, which is called Artlist Max, that I personally use, which combines everything like music, AI photo and video, voiceovers, stock footage, templates, and all kinds of stuff. And that costs less than $39 USD, which I think is the best value for money and my go-to choice. And last but not least, we talked about how I generated this entire video. You might want to check out this one right here. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in one of the next ones.